It is a championship for the Bedford Bulldogs, 3 in a row.
Johnson serves it in. Great header there, and it's a goal.
Brian O'Brien shot, Bedford goal.
Sees it about the 18, sends it up and over and in. Big shot, Grace Crowder. Will kick, snaps back, kick is up. It looks good. It is good.
It's good.
It is good.
It's good.
Hi, I'm Harry Kozlowski. I'm part of the TV and radio crew for Bedford football, and I'm here with Coach Zach Matthews of the Bedford Bulldogs, completing an undefeated season. And we just thought we'd take advantage of the bye to talk with the coach and see how things went and where he thinks they're going. You know, it seems like just yesterday you and I were on the field right before the Jamboree, looking ahead to the season. Now that we're on the verge of the playoffs, how do you feel the team met your expectations from then until now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those seasons that was really special in a lot of ways, but you're right, it's gone fast. I mean, it feels like we just played the first game yesterday, and watching the growth and kind of maturity of this group has been special. We knew we had a good team coming into this year after the way we finished last year. We didn't know about some of those younger players you've seen emerge, you know, Brody Helton and some of our sophomores and the other kids who've really stepped into the limelight. So we're really happy with how the group's come together. You know, obviously it would have been great to have these guys pushed a little bit more in the regular season. We didn't really get tested. I mean, we had the closest game we had was probably the 42-10 game against Dover, and really other than that, the kids have taken control. So I know we're definitely looking forward to playoffs, getting pushed a little bit, seeing what we're made of, but the way things came together, I mean, it's been pretty special.
You bring up Brody Helton, and he really emerged as your top offensive weapon. And going into the season, was the plan to make Brody your featured back, or was he just so good that he won that job outright?
No, I mean, I think that you look at things, you know, I'm lucky to live in this community here, and so I've seen Brody since he was, you know, 10, 11 years old playing football out there. And so Brody's always had special vision, and some of the same things you see at the varsity level are things he's had from a very early age. So I think I knew pretty early on in the process Brody was going to be the guy, Brody was going to be the feature back, and then you're just trying to make sure that you have enough pieces around him to kind of take some of that pressure off. And I think we're lucky that we do have, you know, a lot of those pieces around him. We have some good wide receivers. Obviously, we're lucky to have good quarterback play, which I think is rare in high school football. But I don't know if we knew how much impact Brody would have on everything we've done. I mean, I think we're lucky in the regard that Brody has really, you know, being the leading rusher in Division I football as a sophomore is a special thing. And I think a lot of times Brody makes it look easy and effortless, and it's not. And so his natural instincts and the things that he's done for our offense have certainly been really special.
Well, you have a terrific offensive line opening holes for Brody, but it still takes a certain skill and vision to be able to see the holes that are being created. And I think the symbiosis between offensive line and Brody is just, I don't know if you can teach that. That's the natural.
You can't teach that. And that's what I say to people when they ask some of those things about Brody. You know, Brody's probably not the fastest kid on the field, and he's not the biggest kid. He's got a really good combination of those things, but his vision is special. And those are things you can't teach. You know, I can scheme something up. We can draw kind of how we want it to go. But some of the time when you see Brody, and our linemen had to get used to that early in the year, because play's designed to go to the right-hand side, and Brody will start on the right sometimes, but he might end up all the way over on the left side of the field. And that was a little bit of an adjustment for the offensive lineman, because we haven't had a back like that before. So if you're expecting the back to be on this side of you, and all of a sudden he's over there, it kind of changes the ball game. So certainly I think there was a learning curve. We had experienced linemen coming back, but they also had to learn what it was like to block for him. And it's been fun to watch that kind of evolve as the season gone on.
I don't know if the NHIA maintains stats for individual players, but really has there ever been a sophomore player with the kind of stat sheet that Brody has had? At 17 touchdowns at least, I think he might have more than that, and about 1,300 yards on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there might be stats somewhere, but they don't publicize those things. So I'm not aware. I'm sure that at some point in time there's been somebody that's put up those kind of numbers, but I think that it's lost on people a lot of times, you know, and I think that when we look at it, we try not to talk a ton about stats, because you're trying to appreciate the team dynamic that you've built and what everybody has contributed, but it's no doubt a special season. He has 18 touchdown runs now. I think it's 19 touchdowns overall because he has a touchdown catch, and so the impact he's had on our offense is just unbelievable. And I think some of the things you've seen the past 3 weeks from our quarterback play has been a direct result of what Brody's done. You know, early in the year, Brody's putting up these big numbers, and now all of a sudden defenses say, well, we got to stop this kid. And now all of a sudden the passing game has come back, and I think Danny's had 3 touchdown passes each of the last 3 games. And that's just because we're just taking what teams are giving us. And if they're going to put everybody near the line of scrimmage and try to stop Brody, it opens up a lot of opportunities in the passing game.
And I might mention, too, that Brody, along with Kevin Sheridan, your tight end and defensive end, they're both finalists for the Joe Ukeep Player of the Year award. So that'll get announced at the end of the football season. We'll keep an eye on that. And you brought up Danny Black, and we didn't see that much from him in the air game early on, but you know, I think you might have been trying to get him more involved later on. We saw some terrific outings for Danny through the air, and your top receivers emerging, Luke Soden having a fabulous year, as well as Kevin Sheridan, both of which are really helping out the team through the air. Talk about the passing attack, Danny and his guys.
Yeah, I mean, Danny, you know, we knew what we had coming back with Danny last year. He had a really good year, got some good experience under his belt, and I think this year, you know, early in the season, there was a couple different things. You know, the scores got really out of hand really quickly, and so you're probably not throwing the ball a ton. We were trying to figure out some of the personnel, you know, getting people on the same page. And I think, to be honest, Danny was pressing a little bit early in the year. I think he felt like he had to be perfect, you know, and he felt like, oh, you know, I was the quarterback last year, so it's got to be this much better this year. And I think he was putting a lot of pressure on himself. And I think that once Danny kind of relaxed and let the game kind of come to him a little bit and realized he didn't have to do it all, he was surrounded with a lot of really good players, those things, you know, started to kind of come into shape. Luke Soden was out injured with a sprained ankle for a couple of weeks beginning of the season, and so we were missing him. And so I think that continuity, it just takes longer to build a passing game. You know, you can drop a blocking scheme and you can hand it off to Brody, and that, you know, goes pretty well pretty quickly. But when you talk about kind of pass protection, quarterback being on the same page as a wide receiver, and kids running the route at the right depth and things like that, it takes a little bit longer to kind of build some of that continuity. So definitely pleased with the trajectory our passing game is taking as we go into this part of the season. And, you know, I think everybody goes into a game plan saying, oh, we're going to try to run the football, we're going to do this. Not a whole lot of teams in New Hampshire have the ability to kind of make impact plays in the passing game, and we're lucky enough that we work really hard on that, and we have a quarterback and some receivers who can make some really good plays.
Yeah, you talk about Danny feeling comfortable in the pocket. At the beginning of the year, he had 2 interceptions in one game. Brody had a couple of fumbles as well, but since then, turnovers, absolutely not a problem. You've been clean as a whistle from that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we always talk to the kids about turnovers, and obviously defensively we want to create them, and we've been doing a really good job. Past 2 years, we've been so lucky to have a defense that actually scores points sometimes. I mean, Merrimack, I can't think of a time where I've been a part of a football program where you have 2 defensive touchdowns in a game. And, you know, we protect the football, and we have been protecting the football, and that formula is going to be really important going into the playoffs. You know, you can't give other people extra opportunities with the ball, and you have to take it away. So I'm really pleased with that throughout the season. Now, you know, some of the challenges are going to be, you know, exaggerated a little bit. Those teams are going to be much better, and we're going to have to really protect the football. The hits are going to be harder. The teams we're playing are going to be better, and so I think the kids are excited about that.
Yeah, your defense really, if it wasn't for the play of like a Brody Helton, your defense would be the story of the year. You've given up 20 points in NHIAA play. If you include the game against Thornton, just 27 points. And I think your defense might have outscored your opponents scoring points. Going into the tournament, how big is that going to be? You think they'll match up with some of these stronger opponents that we're probably going to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the things that translate on the defensive side of the football are our defensive line play, and our defensive line play this year is probably even better than it was last year. A lot of people don't realize that. You know, we lost Cal McAuliffe, but we returned really 3/4 of that defensive line, and we feel great about our defensive line. I think it's going to be very difficult to beat us running the football. People are going to have to try to make some plays in the passing game, and that's something we feel really good about. You mentioned the amount of points we've given up. I mean, really, 14 of those points have been by our second string defense when the game has been out of hand and we've pulled our starters because the score is out of control. So really, when you talk about it that way, you know, we really gave up 3 points with our starters to BG, and we gave up 10 points to Dover, which were legitimate points. But other than that, our defense has really been firing on all cylinders, and people haven't done very much. And so our defensive coordinator, Sean Donahue, does a great job. I couldn't do what I do without him. And so I certainly think that when we talk about, looking at trying to bring another state title back to Bedford High School, we're going to have to play exceptional defense. And, that was a formula that worked really well for us last year. And so why go away from that? We're going to play great defense, and we're going to try to play behind our offense, but we don't want to be in a shootout with another team. We want to really, limit what they're able to do and put ourselves in good situations. And to this point in time, the kids have been really good at that.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the defense had 5 games where they shut the opponent out, so you really can't ask for more than that. And let's talk about the playoffs. You did touch upon it. The quality of the opponents is definitely going to go up in the tournament. As a matter of fact, the opponents are ahead of you in the seeding. I mean, here we are undefeated. We've had a fabulous year, and we're only the number 3 seed, and that's because of strength of schedule. Teams like Portsmouth, Oyster River, and Pinkerton had better wins against stronger opponents. And you can't do anything about that. That's the schedule you were given. But now you're going in and you're only the number 3 seed, which means if everything goes to chalk, you may be on the road at some point. Talk about some of the other teams. Have you had a chance to see Portsmouth, Oyster River? Have you seen Londonderry or Pinkerton? Have you had a chance to watch any of their games? What's your take on them?
I've certainly seen more of Portsmouth, I would say, just because we've had some common opponents. We played Dover, who was a Seacoast team in their division, so we saw them on film. Portsmouth Oyster River played Merrimack the week before we played them, so we got to see that game on film. So Portsmouth's certainly a physical team, have good defense, they run the football well, but it's a team we'd be excited to play. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that our kids were a little frustrated with the fact that we're a number 3 seed, and our kids still feel a little bit slighted. We're the defending champs, we go undefeated in the regular season, you have to go on the playoffs as a 3 seed, It is what it is. The kids didn't make the schedule. We got to do, what we got to do. But when we look at that, and Merrimack played Portsmouth the week before we played them. Portsmouth beat them 13-7. We played Merrimack in the last week of the regular season. It was 48-0. Those are 2 very different games and 2 very different situations. So one thing that we learned last year is the seeding doesn't matter, right? We got in last year as a 10 seed, and the rest was kind of history. So in the end, it's a number. It sets a course of action. We know we're going to have to win 3 football games from when we start. We don't really care who we play along the process as long as it's going the way we want it to go.
Yeah, and that touches upon my last question for you. You were the champs. You're the defending champs. You came in as a 10 seed. You had to win 4 games on the road or on neutral site. What does that experience give you in this tournament? Does it give you an edge?
I think that the fact that this group of seniors have been there before, certainly gives us an edge. I don't think any game that we played this year, the kids have felt like the moment's too big for them. We were in a championship game last year. Our backs were against the wall multiple times last year, and our kids came out and responded the right way. This season, we haven't been necessarily pushed as much, but I think that those lessons definitely translate to our path this year. Doesn't matter if we're at home, doesn't matter if we're on the road, doesn't really matter who we're playing. If we play the type of football that we know our kids are capable of, we're going to be in a really good position, and I answered your last question talking a little bit about Portsmouth. Certainly, Pinkerton has had a really great year. I think we returned 7 starters on each side of the ball. Pinkerton returned 8. We just our paths haven't crossed, and so Pinkerton, certainly we got a lot of respect. They look to be like a really formidable team in Londonderry as well, but they're on the other side of the bracket. And reality is, our team, we have to focus on, the next game we have coming up. We can't look too far ahead. Certainly those are good teams. We've seen a little bit of their action, but we've got to focus on whoever comes out of that Salem-Spalding game and be ready to fire on all cylinders.
You will be facing the winner of that game, and I will point out too that game will probably be on Salem TV, and they stream the games. All the local community channels do share their programs. So if you're interested in watching Salem play against Spalding, that should be on stream on Salem TV. So make sure you watch that. But good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Always rooting for you, and of course BCTV and Bedford 105.1 Radio will be giving you coverage of the game as we go through the tournament. Thanks again for coming in, and so long.